is also Domestic Violence Month. And I thought we couldn't let the month end and not at least in some way talk about this particular topic, domestic violence. It affects 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men globally. So and it crosses all strata, right? So race, ethnicity, religion, you name it. Domestic violence, it kind of affects us all. And I'm sure that you know someone that's been in some way affected by domestic violence. I always try to think whether I act in some way that has been violating or violent or abusive in some way to any of my partners. I hope not. I really hope not. But I think sometimes, without even us being aware of it, we can behave in ways that can be abusive to one another. Like I said, no one is immune. And so today, I wanted to just have a brief conversation with someone about her experience with domestic violence. So joining me is Shamilya. I have her on the phone, so she's not going to be on the video. And she is going to talk to us a little bit about her experience growing up in a home where domestic violence was involved. Shamilya, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Thanks for joining me. And so I just wanted you to jump right in, and if you would tell us a little bit about your childhood and how did domestic violence play a role in your childhood experience?
Well, initially, it started from my mom and dad. They would argue a lot and they would fight a lot. The police used to be called to my house all the time. There was a lot of chaos going on. My dad was an alcoholic, so he would drink and then he would get upset and think about things that may have upset him in the past, and it would just get out of control, and my mom and dad used to fight all the time, and my mom would threaten to leave, and then she would decide to stay because she didn't want to leave the kids.
How many kids?
So, it was 3 of us, myself being the oldest, and my sister, which is 3 years younger than me, my brother, and also my younger brother, who was about 4 years younger than me.
How old were you during this time that you recall?
I recall being very young, maybe starting from like 5 or 6 years old, from what I recall. There was always some type of domestic disturbance going on, whether it be between my grandmother and my grandfather, or my aunt and my uncle, or my mom and my dad.
So it's kind of like generational in a sense. Your grandparents, your parents, and other family members, right?
Yes. And there was some substance abuse going on, like drinking played a role in it as well. So, when they drink, it seems to heighten, the confusion and the chaos.
Right. And alcohol is often a factor in domestic violence in the home. But that situation kind of escalated. So I know I'm jumping really forward. I know you're busy, so I'm not trying to keep you for too long. But it escalated Tell us about that. That resulted in a situation with your dad.
Yeah, there was one instance where my mom and dad was arguing. He was saying that she cheated on him with something in the past, and he couldn't trust her, and whatever they were going through in their personal lives, it had nothing to do with us. It was just something that they went through. Um, my dad used to just be really intimidating to her. And so one time she ran in my room, me and my sister's room, and he like kind of went towards her, like she was really scared of him. So he went towards her, and she like hit him with this little stereo player that I had, and his lip, everything just started bleeding, and me and my sister was like crying and screaming, and his mouth was all busted, and then she just ran out the room, and then he was just shocked that she did that. I guess she was in fear that he was going to hit her. So that was one instance. And then, a lot of times they're behind closed doors in their room, and you hear a lot of bumping, and then you hear my mom screaming, and it was just very scary.
Yeah, I was just saying the same. Yeah, it sounded like it was a pretty scary time. But then, and I don't know how old you were when your dad actually went, I guess, even further with the violence, right? So not just the violence in the home with just your mom, but I think there was another situation with him and your mom at a party. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was my mom. They were a little. They were young, about 18, 19. So I was just born. I was like maybe one or two. So my dad and my mom was at a party, and someone tried to, I guess, conversate with my mom, and it was a male, a guy, and my dad didn't like it, so he approached the guy, and they started arguing, and then they started fighting, and my dad pulled out a knife, and he stabbed the man. The man ended up dying, and my dad was charged with manslaughter, and he spent 5 years in prison. So I didn't see my dad for 5 years, and then when he came home, I was about 5 or 6 or so, like that. And yeah, so.
So a lot of
that was horrible.
Yeah, a lot of turmoil in your early years, and now that you're an adult, here you are as an adult, still having, well, not still, but having a similar experience in your relationship. Would you say?
Yes, I agree.
Of abuse of I can't say violence. I don't know that there's actual physical violence, but there's definitely emotional and psychological abuse and financial abuse. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I was going through some paperwork, and I found some documents from years ago. There were about 5 or 6 instances where I had to get a protective order against my now husband. And I was reading about the protective order and the police report of what occurred. Like, he used to, like, put his hands around my neck. He used to shove me, he slapped me before, he put scratches on me before. He was pretty, really violent back then, and I had to call the police on him several times to get him out of the home because he was just in a rage, and he wouldn't stop being violent. And eventually I left him maybe for a year, then I came back, and then I left him again for 2 years, and then I came back and I left him again for another year. And now I'm back, and I'm still in this situation. Now I'm trying to get out again because it's still, the physical abuse is not as prevalent as the emotional and psychological abuse. And the emotional abuse is just really taking a toll on me. It's taking a toll on my children. And I just want it to end.
So now you're 4 kids in. You've been married to him for how long?
In November it'll be 14 years.
14 years. That's 14 years of abuse.
And you married in 2006.
And you've left, but like you said, you've gone back. What do you think? What makes you go back? Because I know someone listening to this is gonna say, but oh my goodness, if he's so abusive, why does she go back?
Yeah. I'm thinking that it's because my mom and dad stayed together until he passed away. My biological mom, she passed away in 2008, and he was abusive to her. Like she said, he was very abusive to her. He would kick her in her stomach when she was pregnant with me. Like, he was very abusive. And he was abusive with my stepmom. And my dad passed away in December of 2016. And I'm thinking that him and my stepmother stayed together. They never separated. They always stayed together. And she still loves him to this day. And I saw my dad as time went by, he stopped drinking and he calmed down a lot. And I didn't see a lot of the things that I saw when I was growing up. So in a way, he changed in a sense. And so I always had that hope that maybe this can work out one day. Maybe people do change, and maybe people do mature one day. And from my husband, he always used to just tell me how much he loves me and how much he wants to be with me and how much he can't live without me and how much he's going to change and it's not going to happen again and he's going to do all these wonderful things.
So all the promises, he made all the right promises. And I think you being hopeful that, people can change, you've been willing to kind of stick it out to see if that would happen, if the change would finally come.
Right. Exactly.
What's your take now?
I think that my life is going by, time is being wasted, my children are getting older, my children are being affected by it, and I don't think it's really worth the wait, the hanging in there, sticking through it to see if it could possibly change. Even if, it does change, I don't want to stay in a situation for so many years that I just waste my life and I don't experience what God has for me, my purpose. And I feel like I deserve peace and I don't deserve verbal and emotional and psychological abuse. Right. No matter how long it's going to last, I'm just at the point where I'm just kind of tired.
And it does take a toll on you, It does take a toll on you. You're tired, like you said, and you're wanting better for you as well as for your kids. You've said that your kids said that they cannot take the screaming, the rage anymore. It's scary for them too. And, I could only wish you well and hope that somewhere, somehow, soon, that you're able to find the peace that you so desire. I think everyone deserves that, to find peace. But thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything else that you want to say, in particular to people listening about, domestic violence? Is there anything, that you'd like to share?
I would tell them that they're worth more than someone verbally or mentally abusing them. They're worth more. So when they first see it happening, that they should leave and they should never go back. They should never settle for that behavior because it's not right and they're worth more than that.
Wow, I think that's so important. Thanks for sharing that. And I hope that someone listening, that it gives them the right message and gives them the encouragement that they need to also make that decision, right? So hang on.
Right.
I'll be with you in just a second while I wrap this up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, hold on. Okay, folks, so there you have it. You have the story from Shamilya, what her experience has been growing up as a child in a domestic violence home, as well as now as an adult in her own home, in her own marriage, experiencing domestic violence. It's been a topic that is very dear to me because, I'll tell you, back in 2001, I happened to be in my home country, Trinidad and Tobago, and I was really taken aback by the number of abusive situations that I would hear announced on the radio or on the news, with women being killed. It was so uncomfortable, it was so disturbing to me that myself and two of my dear friends, Dr. Tamara Moss and Ruth Murphy, we got together and we started the Caribbean Conference on Domestic Violence and Gender Equality. We held the first meeting in Trinidad and Tobago in 2013, and we had another session in Montego Bay, Jamaica in 2014. Hopefully soon we could do another one. It was, I think, very good to have those meetings. And there's one thing I want to share with you, that psychiatrists, we had a male engagement panel once, and psychiatrists, when the women said, these men are doing all these things to us, and those men said, but who raised us? Who raised us? You as women also have to take ownership. And I don't know, I don't have the answers. But what I can say is that we need to treat each other better than we do men to women and women to men. There's no reason that, if we're angry, that we can't find outlets for our anger and not feel that we need to take our anger out on each other.